It's the Robert Saviola Show, sponsored by Buffalo Hypnosis. And now, from the beautiful studios of WBEN, here's Robert.
Good morning to the Robert Saviola Show. My name is Eric Polanski. Robert Saviola is on vacation. He's offered me the chance to step in and fill in for him. He will be online with us shortly. Today, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a local Buffalo resident. I've known Robert for a while. I am one of his listeners. I'm a big fan of his. So when he gave me the opportunity, I said, sure. And here I am. So we have Robert on the line. Is Robert on the line now?
I'm here, Eric. Excellent job.
Hey, Robert. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Down in Florida over here, I have a lot to talk about in my segment coming up shortly, and I'm sure you have some interesting things that I have not delved into during my show, and I didn't delve into it, Eric, because, well, I didn't know how well the audience was ready for it yet, but I think they are now. So I'm really happy that you're going to be here and doing segments every week. And with your guests, you have some interesting guests coming up, I hear.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Next week, we will be speaking with Wayne Madsen, a private investor. Investigative journalist. Wayne Madsen he's an author. He's in the U.S. Navy. He worked with the NSA. So he's got a lot of brain to pick. Following that, we're going to have Christopher Bolin, also an investigative journalist, with some. Let me just say, when I read his book, it really tore at me on a lot of levels, and I'll just say that the man needs to be heard, and he pretty much deconstructed my ideology. So that should be very interesting. And then following that, we have Sheriff Richard Mack, who is running for Congress in Texas. He belongs to the Oath Keepers. They're a group who talk to sheriffs and judges about keeping their oath to the Constitution. As a matter of fact, we'd like to have Sheriff Mack come to town later on in the year, so it should be a real interesting conversation there.
I noticed that the people that you're bringing in are highly credentialed. So we're not bringing in just any, Joe Blow out of the corner with an opinion. We're bringing in people who have definite background and history in investigative journalism or whatever field they're in, and they're going to give you some information that the media just will not, and you can't get anywhere else. So if you want to know what we're learning, you're going to have to tune in every Saturday morning at 5:30 to hear it. But now we're going to go over the top, and we're going to give you stuff that we think you're ready to hear. You've been listening to my show for years. We've been talking about morals, ethics, family values for a long time. Now it's time that you learn what's actually going on right under our very noses here in the United States. And you've been knowing this for a long time, haven't you, Eric?
Oh, not too long. I'll tell you that I am somewhat of a newcomer into this information, we'll say. However, I do find it very captivating, and I'm sorry to say it's unfortunate that the more that I'm digging, the more I'm finding, and I don't know if there is any end to the rabbit holes here, but maybe we'll reach them, maybe we won't. However, it should be definitely quite interesting. I hope that these people can at least hold a candle to what you do for us here in Buffalo, Robert.
I'll have a lot of fun with it, that's for sure, and I do really enjoy getting the word out. And you know what really is nice is when you see someone on the street that listens to the show, they come up to you and they say, I really enjoy the show. I didn't know a lot of those things, and thank you for enlightening me with that stuff. Now, I know we're going to be going to a break in about a minute or so.
Correct.
But, so what are we coming up on the next segment, Eric?
Well, we had, since you've been out of town, I don't know if you were here when you caught what happened at ECMC the past week, but there was a shooting, and there was the next day there was a bomb threat, and I would like to discuss that incident a little bit.
I hear you have some inside information that most people don't have that may be a little different in a lot of ways from what they perceive. And when I come up later on in my segment, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on with our children and how they are turning into animals and becoming a threat to society and to life all around them. It's actually quite scary.
It is pretty scary, Robert. I got to say that, maybe maybe they thought about that about us too when we were growing up. But I can sure see the slope, and it is downward.
Well, it looks like we're coming up on our first break. So with that, stay tuned to our show, the Robert Saviola Show here at WBEN, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Welcome back to the Robert Saviola Show. I'm once again Eric Polanski with Robert Saviola. And as far as what happened this week at Erie County Medical Center, I went into ECMC the other morning and the day after the shooting, and it was just crawling with security. There was people in plain clothes with walkie-talkies and guns and badges everywhere, dogs, you name it. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that's a pretty big deal. But basically, there was supposedly a bomb that was found the day that all of these authorities were there. And I'm thinking back to myself that ECMC really has had no issues dating back maybe 20 years. I mean, we're talking like over 7,000 days ago before something like this had happened at that place. And I'm wondering, what are the chances of this happening the day that the place is crawling with the authorities and the officials? And by no means am I trying to accuse anybody. However, the nature of the crime basically calls for suspects. So when you look at, well, who would possibly do something like this? You look at the thousands of dollars of taxpayer money that's spent on getting people there and taking care of business the way they do when it comes to things like this. But in this case, it apparently was a hoax. There's a few things to mention here, and it's strange, but basically there's federal grants for performing exercises and drills such as this. And there's a number of cases going back. You can actually go check it out, where Department of Homeland Security would give grant money to places, counties that fulfilled their quota of drills in a year. And it turns out that they have the habit of not informing the public that it's a drill. And what happens is it becomes, for the people that are the victims of this psychological operation, it becomes as real as if it was a real bomb and not just a hoax. So it creates trauma. It's basically it's equivalent to yelling fire in a theater, and that's punishable. That's a crime. And the same ought to be here. And any investigation into who did this hoax, it ought to consider authorities. And I'm not trying to create any kind of trouble here. I just think that it's important because, to automatically assume that somebody didn't do something is not a good place to start. You just have to look at all the facts and leave your emotions out of it. So in reality, it is possible that this was just this bomb threat was just a hoax. It was also could have been just a drill, and it would seem that if there is anybody to benefit, it would be the people that would receive grant money if that is the case. And so I'm wondering, have any officials or authorities been questioned? I'm wondering if there's been any videotape of anybody walking into the bathroom where this supposed suspicious package was found. Not only that, if there was videotape, you see a lot of times, you see on TV, the video of the guy that beats up the girl, and isn't that horrible? Where is this guy? There's a let's go find this guy. He's wanted. He's posted up on the TV, on the milk carton, or on a billboard. Well, where's that here? Where's the video of what happened? Where's another thing is the generic details. You can't find really details on what happened. Everything was, authorities said and officials said. You have words like staff member, suspicious package, a mysterious note. There's really no details. So, and it's all across the board too. No matter where you look, you're not going to find who this staff member is. You're not going to find what the suspicious package had in it or what it looked like. You're not going to know what the mysterious note said. There's really no details. And, you know, when you do look at the articles and the videos of what was said, I have a hard time even picturing it because I've been told a few different things about what happened. The papers all seem to be unanimous that it was a suspicious package with a mysterious note edged into the wall above it. And I'm thinking, how do you etch a note? I'm looking at a piece of paper when I think of a note, and then I'm looking at etching it, and I just can't figure out what they're trying to tell me here. So the suspicious package, I heard from security at ECMC that there was a suspicious package that had bomb written on it. That's not what I read in the papers, but, you know, who knows?
I heard it was spelled B-O-M.
B-O-M? Yeah.
There wasn't even a B at the end of it. But so what you're thinking is that this was all just a drill, like a fire drill at a school.
Yes. However, which is fine.
Why do you think they did this the day after the shooting?
I think that it was the day after the shooting because they weren't there the day prior, nor were they there the last 7,000 days prior to that. But the one day that there is an event like that, they happen to be at the same place at the same time, which really, to look at the big picture, is quite telling.
I don't understand. When you say they weren't there the day prior, who's they?
The authorities, who we really have no names. We don't have positions or agencies. We don't know other than authorities and officials. So look, I'm not trying to paint anybody in a corner here. I'm not looking for enemies. I'm looking for answers. And when it comes to something as serious as this, answers are short on coming here. However, Mr. Jody LeMayo, the hospital CEO, gave credit to the disaster preparedness team, and we also know that the Buffalo police were called to the scene. So I'm wondering, is the disaster preparedness team part of the Buffalo police, or is it its own separate entity? And are they eligible for federal grant money? And how did they assemble? Where did they come from? Who are they? I don't know, but Mr. LeMayo gave them some pretty good props. So, you know, they were on the scene. They supposedly... Now, what I heard is from another source is that it was a bottle with a fluid or a liquid in there. And so I've heard all kinds of reports on what was really there, and nobody seems to really know, except for the media is pretty sure that it was just a suspicious package. But none of them have questioned anything about the suspicious package. And
my question to you is, were people in surgery that had to stop surgery? Did they wheel all the patients out? Were people in the emergency room left to go outside? How did that work?
Apparently the first 4 floors were evacuated, except not everybody, because some people you just couldn't move. But I'll tell you, Robert, I had a conversation with the security guard there. What he was an off-duty police officer. And when he said to me that it was a hoax, I wanted to know why he was still there 3, 4, 5 days later. Why are they still roping things off? And his answer to me was because they wanted to, show the public that it was safe. But I'm thinking, well, then go home, because as long as you're here, you make it seem like the hoax was legit. You're legitimizing the hoax. Okay, you're making what was a fake thing. You're giving it legitimacy, and I find that to be wrong. And maybe it is just for the public's best interest, but I'd much rather walk through there without being asked if I'm just a visitor, what I'm doing, and which door to go in and which door to exit. So that's my issues with that whole case, Robert. And we'll find out answers as we go on. I don't know if there's anyone out there that would be interested in looking into this, but I think that there's a case to be made here that these officials ought to be questioned as well. Robert, we're coming up on a break here, so when we get back, I'd love to hear about how it's going in Florida for you. So everybody, thank you for listening. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Robert Saviola Show, and I'm thanking Eric Polanski for filling in while I'm in Florida, and each week, like you heard, there's going to be different guests coming on. I have a topic I want to talk about today. I think you'll find it quite interesting. Most people have heard at some point about the bus monitor in Greece, which is outside of Rochester, and what happened to her. She was around 60, well, she is around 68 years old, and earlier this week, she was monitoring a bus of students that are around 13 years old. 13, 14 years old in that age frame. And not only were they swearing at her and poking at her and calling her names, but there's a video that went viral on YouTube, and it shows this monitor crying while these students threatened her, while they threatened to do things to her, it was horrible the way they swore. These are little kids, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, talking to an adult like this. Now, that adult is there to protect them. So what we're doing is we're sending kittens in to protect lions. Okay? Now, why are the adults the kittens and the kids lions now? Because the liberals have made it that way. This is a direct effect of liberal politics. That adult was so poorly treated that I got to tell you, if I was there, I'd have been in jail because I'd have slapped each one of them across the face so hard when they woke up, their clothes would have been out of style. But it's ridiculous. Those kids not only need to be beaten with a belt, they need about 6 months of community service. Now, this is what we've done by coddling children, by sparing the rod, and we spoiled the child. These kids aren't kids anymore. They're predators. And they have no feelings. They have no conscience. We turn them into amoral sociopaths. You don't believe me? It goes further. There's a poster on YouTube, too, of two girls up near a Justin Bieber poster. One's kissing him on the lips, the other one's kneeling in front of him with her face in front of his crotch. Again, liberalism raising our kids. We don't have parents anymore because parents aren't allowed to parent. You saw the guy that wanted to whip his son with a belt, which I'm telling you, I've been hit with a belt when I was a kid. I'm none the worse for it. It did not hurt. And when it happened to me, I deserved it. But nowadays, you can't give just punishment. So instead of the parents punishing the children, so the children will learn and not do anything worse as they grow older, the parents aren't allowed to punish the kids, and it's malice aforethought. You see, it's a for-profit organization here in our prison systems. Our prison system is privately owned companies. And now our police officers are unionized. So the more people we can put in jail and the more jobs we can give them, the more money they'll make. You understand what I'm saying here? So if we don't discipline our children and with a young age, they're going to end up doing things that cost them a lot more at an older age. But you look at what's going on. Down in Florida here, there are schools down here that are so bad that you can't walk down the halls without threat of being raped. They're selling drugs. They're carrying guns. Teachers are selling grades. They're not teaching. You show up, you get 100. You're mad if you don't do any of your work or if you don't show up, you can buy a C for a $20 bill or an A for a $50. Now, I'm not telling you this to make it as some sort of pie in the sky, let's make it up as we go kind of thing. Excuse me, a little cough here, allergies. I'm telling you this because it's gotten so out of hand that we've lost control. And when are we going to get control back? And how long will it be and how many lives will be lost? You look at Trayvon Martin down here, who's a teenager that lost his life from climbing a fence into a gated area, which he had no business going to, in the middle of the night, carrying a 24-ounce can of iced tea that's closed. He ends up getting himself killed. They want to go after the guy who did it. They take this Trayvon Martin kid, they put a picture of him up there that's 3 or 4 years younger. They soften all his features to make him look like a little baby, and then they enclose his whole face, all around his face, in pink. because he was just an innocent victim here, you see. And because we're making these animals into innocent victims, we're taking piranha and putting them in little baby blankets. I'm sorry, they're not babies. They're animals, and they're dangerous. Have you ever pulled up to a stoplight in Buffalo and watched two teenage kids in a certain neighborhood walk across the street and look at you while you're sitting in the driver's seat? You don't know if they got a gun on them. They're going to turn and pull it and shoot you because they have no consequence. Most likely they'll get away with it. And if they do get caught, they'll be charged as a youthful offender, get a couple of years inside some sort of youth halfway house or home, and be put back on the street again. We are in trouble. Don't think you're safe. When you drive down the streets of Buffalo, I want you to ask yourself a question when you're in that car at 2 in the afternoon. How would you feel if you didn't have that car and it was now 2 in the morning, but you're in that same neighborhood? Would you feel safe? Could the police help you? Because I'm telling you, what you're making the police do is above and beyond the pale. They can't save you now. And school teachers aren't safe. They're being threatened and raped and beaten up. Why is this? Because we're not disciplining our children. When I see the idiots on YouTube or on Huffington Post, and when they showed the guy taking a belt to the back of his son's legs, which I got to tell you, he hardly even touched him, and then the neighbor is confronting a father. Who in the world is this neighbor to get involved between a man and his son, whether it's his stepson or not? This guy should have minded his own business and then took the video to the police, which in turn arrested the man and put him on $100,000 bail? What happened to that little kid right now? Well, he just learned he doesn't have to listen to authority, because if anybody does anything to him, he's just going to call the police. So he'll never again be able to be taught a thing. But what he is going to become is a thug. And that can't be helped. That is something that's going to be automatic now. But why is that? It's because people don't mind their own business and they don't have common sense anymore. Do you really think that spanking a child is going to do them any harm? Now, you're putting bamboo shoots under the fingers, you're tying them to a bedpost, you're not feeding them, you're beating them to a pulp. Now we're talking abuse. But spanking a kid, hitting them with a belt, or do what you have to do to discipline a person when they're not acting according to what we're supposed to act like or the accepted norms of society, that's not abuse, ladies and gentlemen. And people like to use the word abuse too freely. I was abused. Bull crap. They weren't abused. They were set straight. Look at the old movies. Remember the old movies? You'd have Fred Astaire, or you'd have John Wayne, or you'd have Cary Grant, and a woman would be acting up, and they would slap the woman across the face. If a guy did that today, he'd be arrested and put in jail. Back then, the woman had enough common sense to say, thanks, I needed that, because she was acting up or she knew she was out of control. But nobody knows they're out of control anymore. They just continue to go off into the abyss somewhere on some sort of rant. When you look down in Florida here, you got a guy eating his face off, another guy's face off. You got kids raping kids in school and selling drugs in school. Their academics down here is horrible. They have great colleges, but I wouldn't send a dog to their high schools. Most of them anyway, from what I hear. And then you got all these other cases that are coming out like Trayvon Martin, like the Casey case where the little girl was killed and she got off because that's how the law was down here, which, you can't blame the law. Things happen, they have to happen that way, but I don't want to digress. The point I'm making here is discipline your children. Just because the government's telling you that you're responsible for your kids but you're not allowed to raise them, forget what the government's telling you. In my opinion, how I do things the way I want to. Forget the way the government is. I listen to God and what the Bible says. Would you rather please man or would you rather please God? God says spare the rod, spoil the child. I know what that means, and I'm going to listen to him. If you want to continue to listen to the government and all these liberals that are making laws now, you're going to find out that in a very short period of time, you will lose total control over your whole life. And that's because the adults are mainly liberals that aren't thinking. Find a liberal policy that actually worked ever, and I'll kiss your butt on Main Street. Because they don't work. Anyway, enough of my diatribe there. Back to you, Eric. What's going on next week?
Well, Robert, I feel bad for you down there, so just, stay safe. Stay away from any schools. How's that?
I'm telling you, Yeah, I'm talking to students down here. They're telling me stories. I don't know if they're lying or telling the truth. They sound credible, but they're horror stories.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any stories like that to report, but listen, if there is, I'll let you know.
Hey, we should be happy our school systems are the way they are in Buffalo, because our school systems in Buffalo, a lot of the good ones are the best in the country.
There you go. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. You're listening to the Robert Saviola Show. Again, I'm Eric Polanski with Robert Saviola in Florida. Thanks and bye-bye.
God bless each and every one of you. Take care.